Hi, I'm Francis, and I was going through Node Serialport trying to fix our build system, and while our builds were running, I noticed there were a lot of issues. So I took a bit of time to dive through that and cut that into a different video that I'm going to show you now. All right, while we wait for this to pass, why don't we go and check some of the issues? 34 is a lot, and I want less. So let's do some triage. We have some bug reports. So we'll start from the end. With some feature requests. We have some CPU usage things, which I'd love to profile and check out. We don't have tests for certain areas. Maybe we could do that a little later. Native returns. So this is our C++ code does things differently in different locations. We do things a lot better than we used to, but this is still open. Update. I think update might have landed. In fact, Unix support for update baud rate, but does it work for Windows? Well, let's check our docs. Our docs are good. They're up to date. So let's look for update. Here, we've got it right here. Custom rates as allowed by hardware supported. Doesn't say anything about Windows being there. Let's just double check the code for update. So if we look at serial port CPP, we go to Windows and we look at underscore, I guess, update EIO Windows. Where's our stuff? So it's EIO update. There we go. We actually do update. So this has been done. Let's read that issue one last time, though. So Chrome update options lets you change baud rate while keeping it open. And I think that's all we do for update, in fact, right now. Is baud rate. We don't do anything else. We know it's there in Windows. We know it's there on the Mac. Let's just check some more of our tests. So we have integration. With the Arduino integration tests and update. And we say Win32 isn't supported yet. And we don't completely test it. So I'm actually not comfortable closing this. Though it looks like maybe it's there, this, the integration tests don't currently run on Windows, and we don't ensure we can still write to the port after a baud rate change. Once those two items have been tested, I'm comfortable closing this. And so I don't think this is a design issue anymore. I think it needs testing. It's not support. Windows is in there. I would say it's a good first PR, but it's totally not a good first PR. I would like to say I would love help on it, though. We don't have a label for that. All right. Let's go back. Our tests are still running, though all passing. So, 250,000 baud rate. People really want that. There's some crazy stuff to do for Linux, and I don't think it's supported on Windows. It's something I really would love to get in there, but it's so weird to do, so different from everything else. Node.js native serial port. I actually know what's going on this. Nothing at the moment. Parser.delimiter bug. Currently, for master code, delimiters don't have to be consecutive. So this is if you have multiple delimiters. I don't feel like doing this right now. Um, let's see. I actually am not convinced this is a bug. I think this is just we work differently than they would like it to. And that's okay too. Let's see. Last but not least. Oh, looks like our Travis build's finished. Yay! All right. No surprise. Disconnecting serial cable crashes node. All right. So with a really old serial port, a long time ago, almost a year ago, when you pulled the cable, it would crash. So disconnect works a lot better. Port still can't be reopened, so I don't know what that's about. I think this still needs testing, to be honest. This isn't a Windows machine, so I can't test it. I think we could probably close this pretty soon. We did clean up disconnect. I'd love to have a disconnect. Disconnects are a pain because you never know what's going on. Like what the state of things are. You just need to know you need to clean up. And we now do that. This came from another thing, triggering garbage collection less frequently by making less anonymous functions. This is around CPU and profiling. It's another time. Won't install on Raspbian many errors. So depending on how somebody sets up the Raspberry Pi, they may or may not have a great Linux. They may or may not have other things. They need a certain version of GCC. They probably had a very old version, but they disappeared. May, June, July. 3 months. I'm going to close this for now. If you want to come back, if this person wants to come back, they totally can, and happy to help them debug. I hope they got it working. This happens a lot. Disconnect is poorly defined, doesn't always work. So we've had a lot of work done on this. We now have a single disconnect path, and we never remove events. I'm actually going to close this. While there are other testing and integration tests to do, this is not an actionable item, and I think we're done. This is great. I used to have this on a milestone, I think, but it's gone. See, parsers are poorly documented. We don't talk about them so much. I think I'd love to have parsers be a transform stream, but alas, maybe in Serialport 5. Clean up the bindings layer. Plenty of stuff to do there. Support Chrome Serialport. This can happen if we clean up the bindings layer. Add docs to show off our new Electron and NWJS support. Well, we actually do support it, though newer versions seem to break, and I don't know those projects very well, so it's hard for me to go. We have a roadmap, which basically lists a bunch of other items that we've been over. Writing on Windows 10 occasionally fails and loses data. I wish I knew. I can't reproduce this bug. This is one that's sitting out there for a long time. It's been out here for a real long time. Nobody else has complained. And the documentation for the C function calls and the error, which is error sem timeout, don't tell you what happened. They don't tell you that something did happen or not. But it was a very good bug report. If Rob Geisenberg comes back, I would love to get his feedback on this. In fact, let me ask him. Your feedback on this. We can still fix this, I'm unable to reproduce it. But I'm happy to add the correct logic. If you can help explain it further. Comment. This one's been a bane for a little while. Delays when making requests over a slow network. I'm fairly certain this person's filling up their request thread. Their thread pool, like they're just maxing it out. But today he added a YouTube video showing it off. That'd be really cool to see. and you can't hear that audio, so you can go check it out, and we'll take a look at it later. Detecting and plugging of virtual COM ports on the fly. Let's see. So they're pulling serial port list, and they're looking to see if the device is plugged in, and they open it if it is. When it's unplugged, though, they expect disconnect to be fired. Plugging the device again, they expect to see it again. But instead, the disconnect does get fired. After replugging, the list doesn't show the device anymore. So reconnect isn't possible without an OS reboot or using a different USB port. It's crazy. So they're using a Mac OS El Capitan. Okay, Node.js 6, the 3.1.2 beta 2, a little out of date, but listing hasn't changed. So I asked them to use 4.0, still no change. So 4.0 we did cleanup disconnects, should be closing file descriptors. So virtual COM ports, VPC. Okay, so virtual COM ports are USB COM ports, that's fine. Well, this is weird, and I don't think this is true, but we can easily figure this out. I'm going to reproduce this in the REPL. I still can't believe this run. Oh, it's still going. Our tests have passed. Well, you get a bonus thing. We're going to reproduce this guy's setup. So he says he lists, he opens ports on disconnect. Well, interesting. I don't care. So Node Serialport equals require dot forward slash, right? So Serialport list console.log. So I've got the Arduino right here, div. Okay, so now if I do port equals new serial port, that path, console.log. Alright, so we got log null, which means there was no error opening it, and port is there. If I do port.on data console.log, then I do port.write, hi, we got a buffer of 3 characters, and if I were to do, well, you learn something every day. The numbers we see in the textual representation of the buffer is not the data of the buffer. Go figure. So we have the port, it's open. Let's disconnect it. Let's do port.on error console.log.bind null, well, console error. All right. So that will log us all errors when they happen. Now let's change this to disconnect. Okay, so when I pull this, we didn't get anything. Oh, there it goes, disconnect. No such device at this address. And so now port.isOpen is false. Port.fd is null. So it should have closed it. And serial port list should now return nothing because it's still disconnected. Well, it has the Bluetooth port that's built into my machine. I'm going to plug it back in. And there, now I see it again. It's back. So what is he doing here? So what's busy? So ready. So it's not seeing the new devices. Perhaps. Saw the disconnect. But maybe the open doesn't work again, perhaps. So I'm going to do port.open because I can. And when we open it, it resets the Arduino, and we got a buffer, and it was probably a ready byte from the Arduino. It's probably the word ready. But now we're here again. I can disconnect. It's disconnected. If I call open, it works. So I'm able. So this is working fine for me. You know, I am able to disconnect and reconnect an FTDI COM port, and reconnect to an COM port multiple times on my Mac. OS X. What OS X am I? El Capitan. Well, let's try one more time. Since we know it works, maybe it's his code. Maybe it's their code. So, Node. They're using a different version of Serialport. So let's back out of that. Let's make a file. Alright, I'll save this as test.js, right? Okay. So node test.js. Oh, so I don't have an FTDI, it's something that reports as one, but let's have it report as an Arduino instead. That manufacturer? I don't recall. We can output the whole thing with the JSON output. So manufacturer, yep, Arduino CC, cool. All right. Pulling for new devices. I'm going to disconnect. Great. I'm going to reconnect. Device found. Port open. So this totally works. Okay. Capitan, both with your code and COM port, in this case, an Arduino with the chipset. Both your code and manually testing. I'd imagine that it's something to do with either your version of OS X or the FTDDI drivers. I don't have a... Oh, they're using El Capitan as well. Do with the FTDI drivers. You know, I don't have another FTDDIs around to test with. Yeah, I don't believe so. Alright, I think we can close this one pretty soon. Something's definitely wrong with this setup. It might be the ports themselves. Well, I don't see anything else that I think is worth going over, and I've well past my 10-minute mark, so I hope you enjoyed my poking around, and I'm glad we got our tests going. I'm going to work on improving code coverage next time, because I know it's more than 55%. We're just not reporting it correctly. Talk to you later.